My name is Donovan Schaefer. I'm a public humanities fellow with the Virginia Humanities. I'm also doing a residency at the Library of Virginia in summer of 2025. One of the projects that I'm working on during my public humanities fellowship is on the reception of Confederate monuments. So Confederate commemoration can include all kinds of things. I'm interested in monuments, I'm interested in memorials, I'm interested in things like flags, like parades, and I especially want to see how people have reacted to all of these different acts of Confederate commemoration. One of the issues that you have when you research Confederate commemoration in an archive like the Library of Virginia is that the archives that you're looking at were predominantly created by white elites, the kind of people who have an active interest in promoting the Confederacy and who have a certain class prerogative that makes it easy for them to dedicate time to things like serving on the board of a nonprofit foundation, which makes it possible to fundraise and organize something like putting up a Confederate monument. That means that a lot of voices are left out of the process of Confederate commemoration. We just don't hear those voices coming through the mainstream archives. As a corrective to this, I worked on a research project with some students of mine from the University of Pennsylvania to specifically bring voices from Black journalism into the conversation about Confederate commemoration. So over the span of about a year, my students developed a database with over 2,000 articles from the Black press going back to early in Reconstruction, the late 1860s, early 1870s, made up of Black journalists writing very often in dedicated Black publications that are observing society in the United States and writing about that society from their perspective. My students determined that Black journalists have been responding to Confederate commemoration and especially criticizing Confederate commemoration for a very long time, going back over 150 years. One of the stories that's sometimes told about contemporary criticism of Confederate commemoration is that it's a new thing, and we have decisively disproven that. In order to present our findings, we built this website called the False Image of History Project. This is a reference to a line from a newspaper in Minneapolis. They were interviewing a Black intellectual in the 1960s, and this Black intellectual said, Confederate commemoration is designed to create a false image of history, to tell the story of the Confederacy in a way that skews the nature of the Confederacy and the Civil War around it. We have a collection of essays that were written by my research students about the articles in the database. So you can see here on the website, we have this interactive map. This is one of the ways of encountering the essays. You can see here we have a collection of pins. The pins are geographically located. They connect to specific articles corresponding to specific locations. So if you click on one of the pins, you can see that it opens up a link to an article about a Confederate commemorative event that took place on that particular location. We have about 40 articles overall. Every one of these connects to a different article that tells the story about the entries in our database in a different way. You can see over here we have a list of the different topics. One of our topics was monuments to mammies and faithful slaves. This was a trend that took place in the early 20th century where white elites tried to create monuments to Black people that they saw as good Black people. So mammies, usually enslaved women, but sometimes non-enslaved servants, and faithful slaves, especially enslaved people who were loyal to the Confederacy during the Civil War period. Another way of accessing these articles is to look at the complete list of essays that we have here. You can see this is also divided up by section. If you want to learn more about Confederate commemoration and especially how Black journalists responded to Confederate commemoration, we have a complete collection here of various sources that really fill in this picture of what was happening with Confederate commemoration and how Black journalists covered it.